Have you ever thought to yourself, I want to film the next Batman movie on my iPhone?
I'm Batman.
Well, now you can. So anamorphic lenses are usually used for big budget Hollywood movies such as Inception, and they usually cost multiple thousands of pounds. But in this video, we're going to be checking out an anamorphic lens that only costs £100 and works with your iPhone. So to start this video off, what actually is an anamorphic lens? So anamorphic lenses were originally invented back in World War I and put in tanks to provide a wider field of view. They were then adopted by filmmakers because they produce a very desirable cinematic look. So anamorphic lenses use a cylindrical lens to squish the image in the horizontal plane. So this means after you've recorded footage, you need to de-squeeze the footage or stretch the footage out. And this usually means that the footage is more wide angle than if it was shot on a traditional lens. And if you also noticed that some movies have black bars on the top and bottom, well, this is usually a result of the de-squeezing process of anamorphic footage. The footage also has some other desirable characteristics, the first being lens flares. Anamorphic lenses produce a very distinct horizontal lens flare. You've probably seen this in movies such as Star Trek. And they also produce an oval bokeh, which is associated with a more cinematic, gritty look. So that's why a filmmaker might decide to use an anamorphic lens. But for sort of hobby filmmakers or YouTubers, anamorphic lenses have sort of been out of reach because they've been so expensive. So when the brand SANDMARC contacted me and was like, do you want to check out our new anamorphic lens for the iPhone? I was like, yeah, sure. So they sent over their anamorphic lens kit for the iPhone and they chucked in a film rig as well. So here it is. And as always, I'm not being paid to say anything specific about these products. I've just been sent a review unit. Everything I say is my own opinion. So the anamorphic lens that they sent me is the 1.55 times squeeze lens, but they also make a 1.33 times squeeze lens. So on their website, this lens costs $170 and it comes with the anamorphic lens itself, as well as a case to sort of connect the lens to your phone. So at the time of filming this video, it is only iPhones that they are creating these lenses for. So I am sorry if you are an Android user. So all of the anamorphic footage from this video is going to be shot using my iPhone 16 Pro Max. So we're now going to take a look inside the box, starting off with the lens. So you're initially greeted by a carrying case, and then inside the carrying case is a small bag with the lens inside. And there's also a clip. In the other box there's an iPhone case which is specific to your phone, so I've gone with the iPhone 16 Pro Max case. And the important thing about this case is it comes with threads around the lenses, and this is because the anamorphic lens itself has a screw-like thread on it, so you can sort of twist the lens onto the case to attach the lens to the phone. And as I've just mentioned, it comes with a clip, and this is pretty cool because it allows you to pretty much use this on any smartphone. All you have to do is clip this over the camera of your smartphone and then screw the lens on. And yeah, I am aware that I did mention that this is only advertised for iPhones on their website, but that's because they only create the threaded cases for the iPhones. And with this clip, you're able to use it on pretty much any Android phone. So my first impressions of the build quality of this lens are all positive. It feels like it's all constructed out of aluminium and real glass, and it's got a nice weight in the hand. SANDMARC also sent over their film rig, which is basically a cage for the iPhone, which pairs very nicely with this lens, and it allows you to attach lights and GoPros to the top of the camera. This also has a very nice metal construction, and I also found that it was large enough to house my mirrorless camera, so I can actually use it with my mirrorless camera if I wanted to. So the next question is, how does this anamorphic lens actually perform? So it is currently late December and I had a few days off for Christmas, and I headed up to the Yorkshire Dales in the UK to spend some time with my grandparents. And I thought this would be a great opportunity to take the lens and test out the quality of the video. So I started off by taking the lens outside into the countryside to film some landscapes to test out the overall quality of the lens. I then took some action shots of my dog to test out if it looks any better in slow motion. I then took the lens back home to Cornwall to film the seaside. I tested out some slow motion shots of waves crashing over rocks. So here you go, here's some sample footage. Let me know what you think of it in the comment section below. And as always, if you are enjoying this video and you are finding it useful, be sure to hit that subscribe button. We're on the road to 10,000 subscribers, and drop us a like. let's carry on with the video. So whilst using this lens, there were a few things that I did observe. The first was that the inbuilt iPhone stabilization actually reacts very badly to having this lens on. It can cause the image to look distorted. To combat this, I would recommend going into the iPhone camera settings and turning off enhanced stabilization when you are using this lens. This also has the added benefit of increasing the field of view of the footage. Another thing that I did observe is that the lens does interact with the iPhone's autofocus. This usually isn't an issue for landscape videos, but if you are trying to shoot something close up, it is going to take a bit longer to focus on that object. And something else to be aware of is when you are using this lens, it does produce a softer image than not using the lens. This was to be expected. This is also the case with anamorphic lenses on cinema cameras. They're not known for producing the sharpest images. But anyways, here's a comparison between the sharpness of iPhone footage with and without the lens on. I noticed the biggest difference is with the iPhone telephoto lens. When you add this anamorphic lens to that lens, there is a lot of purple fringing and the image does become very soft. So I probably would stay away from using it with the telephoto lens. Another thing to be aware of is because this is an anamorphic lens, the video files will appear squished. Here's a sample of what the video files without any editing look like on the iPhone. So this does mean that after you've recorded the videos, you are going to have to export them to a video editor to de-squeeze them, or there probably is an app on the App Store that does that for you. And it is worth just quickly pointing out, when you are using this lens, it is important what direction the lens is pointing. You'll notice on the top of the lens there is a little white marker, and on the top of the case there is a little white strip, and you want to line these up. This means that the lens is in the right position, because if the lens is in the wrong position, then it will squeeze the image diagonally or vertically, which will just look wrong. So anyway, they're the quirks that I noticed while using the lens. The question is, does this actually produce a cinematic image that you can use for professional video work? I think the answer is that it does depend. You've got to remember that you are filming this on a smartphone, which has a very small sensor, so you are already losing out on a lot of cinematic sort of features that you would sort of maybe have with a cinema camera. For example, one feature that you get from using an anamorphic lens with a cinema camera with a large sensor is oval bokeh, but unfortunately when I was filming with my iPhone, I just wasn't able to recreate this. That wasn't to do with the lens, it was more to do with the fact that the iPhone has such a small sensor and that there's not a lot of depth of field. It was also harder than expected to create lens flares with this lens. I did manage to create a few sort of longitudinal lens flares, but a lot of light sources just weren't creating lens flares. So if you're hoping to buy this lens to create scenes with hundreds of lens flares, then it's probably not going to be as easy as you think it is. So finally, what are my thoughts on this lens and would I recommend it? So my thoughts are, it's a very well constructed lens that feels premium, and it probably is one of the most affordable ways to experience an anamorphic lens. But I would manage your expectations. You're probably not going to be creating some cinema quality footage with this lens, and that's probably not the fault of this anamorphic lens, but the fact that it's designed to be used with a smartphone which have very small sensors. And most of the sort of the cinematic effect of an anamorphic lens come from the fact that it's paired with a cinema camera with a large sensor. So you're going to be missing out on the sort of the oval bokeh, and it's definitely the lens flares from this lens aren't going to look as pretty as something from sort of a cinema camera. But if you are someone that does like filming stuff on their smartphone, then this is definitely a cool lens or a cool gadget to sort of play around with. So I would definitely recommend this to someone that is interested in sort of messing around with an anamorphic lens. But anyway, hopefully you've enjoyed this video, and if you have got any questions, leave them in the comment section below. Consider subscribing. We're on the road to 10,000 subscribers. Drop a like if you have enjoyed, and I will see everyone in my next video.